Right now, on to the point, tracking a weather impact alert.
Brief break overnight before more rain and snow returns to Northern California on Friday. I'm tracking the latest.
Our federal workers recently laid off going back to work. Tonight, what a new ruling out of San Francisco is saying. The debate over trans student athletes in girls' sports.
We're asking CIF to return girls' sports to the female-only category.
Where California stands as funding threats grow. And later, our champions of hope. How a local Toys for Tots volunteer is giving back and why help is needed year-round.
Good evening. This is To The Point, and I'm Alex Bell. We continue to track a weather impact alert tonight. Our latest storm causing damage and also bringing feet of snow to the Sierra. This is a look over I-80 in Truckee. Traffic is moving. Chain controls were dropped over Donner Summit just before 2 this afternoon, but more snow is on the way. And in Sacramento, heavy rain and wind caused damage to this apartment. A 50-foot oak tree fell on balconies at the Fountain Grove Apartments off Elkhorn Boulevard. Thankfully, no one was injured. And down in Southern California, a tornado crossed about 4 residential blocks near East Los Angeles, knocking down trees and power lines. The National Weather Service says it lasted about 2 minutes with 85 miles per hour winds. Mudslides are also a major concern in Southern California. And the severe weather, it's just going to continue. So let's go ahead and bring in meteorologist Brendan Minchaf checking the latest.
Yeah, and I do have to add, chain controls have been put back over Donner Summit on Interstate 80 as we speak. I do want to say, though, the snowfall totals were right where we were talking about, 2 to 3 feet widespread across the Sierra, Bear Valley, 32 inches, Sugar Bowl, 29 inches, Boreal, and the Central Sierra Snow Lab, both 27 inches there. Palisades, Tahoe, 25 inches, Dodge Ridge, 24 inches, Kirkwood and Mammoth, 23, North Star, 23, Tahoe, Donner, 20 inches of snow on Wednesday alone. And we've continued to see snow today. So when the ski resorts go out and measure about 6, 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, we're going to add on to those snow totals. Here's what the radar and satellite has looked like. We're seeing some clearing in the valley right now, but that snow in the high country is really not going to let up. There'll be a brief period overnight where the snow comes to an end, but it's going to return basically around sunrise tomorrow morning. We've got a winter storm warning that's been extended until 11 p.m. on Friday, and winter weather advisory on the eastern side of the Sierra. So again, just because this storm is winding down doesn't mean we're out of the woods. Another storm's on the way. Through about 11 o'clock, we'll see another 3 to 6 inches of snow in the Sierra before Friday's storm rolls through, and then we're talking another 1 to 2 feet. So that weather impact alert has also been extended for the Sierra through Friday. Again, 1 to 2 feet of additional snow. Just continue to avoid that non-essential travel in the high country and give the crews a chance to clear the roads. We'll look at Futurecast and our rain chances coming up a little later in the show, Alex.
All right, Brendan, thank you. And right now on the ABC 10 Plus streaming TV app, you can check out the latest extended weather and radar. You can also watch our weather explainers from things like Sierra snow to also weather alerts. The ABC 10 Plus streaming app is free to download on your TV, and we will be checking back in with Brendan a little bit later in the show. Now to President Trump's first 100 days in office. President Trump will now reportedly invoke wartime powers to speed up deportations through a law called the Alien Enemies Act, according to ABC News. This could happen as soon as tomorrow. So the law is from 1798. It passed as part of the Alien and Sedition Acts under President John Adams, and it was used to intern Japanese Americans during World War II. According to ABC News, the Department of Defense is not expected to be involved, though the law could allow for deportation of some migrants without a hearing. The Trump administration is also asking the Supreme Court to allow restrictions on birthright citizenship to partly take effect while the legal process over his executive order to ban the practice plays out. Trump signed an executive order banning citizenship to those born after February 19th whose parents are in the country illegally. 3 federal appeals courts have already rejected the order, and nearly 24 states have sued, arguing that this violates the 14th Amendment. Meanwhile, tonight, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer says he will vote to keep the government open, likely avoiding a government shutdown. Congress has until midnight tomorrow to advance a funding bill. He says the bill is deeply partisan, but a government shutdown is far a worse option. And it comes as questions remain over whether federal workers recently laid off are getting their jobs back. A federal judge in San Francisco ruled this morning that thousands of fired workers must be rehired immediately. And this ruling impacts the Departments of Agriculture, Defense, Veterans Affairs, Energy, Interior, and Treasury. The judge says many probationary employees were fired for performance reasons, even though many had positive feedback from their supervisors. The government must prove within 7 days it had offered reinstatement to all of those who were fired. The White House says they will immediately fight back. And tonight, a debate continues over transgender student athletes competing in girls' sports. ABC 10's Becca Habecker joins us in studio with where California stands as funding threats grow.
Yeah, Alex, last month, President Trump issued an executive order banning transgender student athletes from high school girls and college women's sports teams. Schools that don't comply risk losing federal funding. Well, tonight I asked those overseeing California's public education system, what's at stake? Parents and student athletes opposed to transgender girls on high school girls' sports teams voiced their opinions Thursday morning. It was at a meeting of the Executive Committee of the California Interscholastic Federation, or CIF, which governs high school sports in the state. We spoke with St. Francis High School junior Jordan Brace, who asked at the time that we not show her face out of concerns of bullying.
As a female athlete, I want to know that I'm safe and that I'm not engaging in unfair competition and competing against someone that has more physical advantages than I do.
We also spoke with Beth Bourne of Davis, a vocal opponent of transgender students competing on girls' sports teams.
We know it's not fair to have boys in girls' sports. We're asking CIF to return girls' sports to the female-only category.
As for the meeting, no vote regarding transgender athletes was on the agenda, and the CIF told ABC 10 in a statement, the CIF provides students with the opportunity to belong, connect, and compete in education-based experiences in compliance with California law. California law says a student is allowed to participate on athletic teams and competitions and use facilities consistent with his or her gender identity, irrespective of the gender listed on the pupil's records. That was a law passed in 2013 that went into effect in 2014. Assemblymember Bill Asaley has introduced a bill this session to reverse that, requiring students to play on sports teams and use bathrooms consistent with their sex assigned at birth.
So this isn't really an issue about trans people. This is about protecting vulnerable girls and women in safe spaces and about fairness on sports teams.
Advocates for the LGBTQ plus community say such bans are harmful.
And transgender youth already face higher rates of anxiety, depression, and suicide due to the discrimination and stigma. So excluding them from sports only worsens those disparities.
Last week on his new podcast, This is Gavin Newsom, California's governor told his guest, conservative media personality Charlie Kirk, that he thinks transgender athletes on girls' and women's school sports teams is unfair.
Would you say no men in female sports?
Well, I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that.
This comes as back on February 5th, President Trump issued an executive order banning transgender students from high school girls and college women's sports teams, threatening to rescind all funds from educational programs that don't comply. The CIF responded by saying it's following California law. So a week later, the U.S. Department of Education said it's launching an investigation into the CIF. I asked the California Department of Education what's at stake if Trump makes good on his threat, how much federal funding goes to the K-12 education budget. A spokesperson says for the 2021-22 school year, just under 14%, or $1 in every $7 of public school funding in California came from federal support.
And Becca, how many transgender students are we really talking about here?
Well, not many. The governor's office told us last week in California's 5.8 million student K-12 public school system, the number of transgender student athletes is estimated to be in the single digits. And, I went ahead and asked the U.S. Department of Education for an update on the investigation into the CIF and whether staffing cuts announced at the department would affect that investigation. I did not hear back today. I also asked the California Department of Education if they've seen any federal funding cuts since President Trump took office. They were responsive to other questions I had, but that particular follow-up question I asked late in the day, and so they didn't get to me on that exact one immediately.
All right, Becca, thank you so much. We always appreciate it. All right, tonight, a new survey from the California Nonpartisan Research Group, the PPIC, found that the majority of registered voters and likely voters in California approve of the way Governor Newsom is handling his job as governor. Here's the breakdown from the group's February statewide survey. They found 52% of California adults, 52% of registered voters, and 55% of likely voters approve of the way Governor Newsom is handling his job. Last October, this number was sitting at 44%. The PPIC believe this could be due to how the governor has handled the LA wildfires, the state budget, and also it's a non-election year. Coming up onto the point, the tariff war, why a 200% tax could be coming, sending stocks tumbling again.
Snow continues to fall. We'll see a brief break overnight, but then there's more on the way tomorrow. Another 1 to 2 feet. We'll time out Futurecast coming up.
And the Girl Scouts facing a lawsuit over their cookies, but the legal fight may now be crumbling. We're back after this. Look at this. Palisades Tahoe sent us this video of all the new snow they woke up to today. The ski resort says they received 25 inches of fresh snow at their summit, and the storm is still delivering. They expect the snow to keep stacking up through Saturday morning, so we will keep watching it. But I want to go ahead and bring in meteorologist Brendan Minchef. Our weather team is still calling for a weather impact alert. So what can we expect, really?
Yeah, well, that was exactly right. Yeah. Snow is going to continue to keep falling. We've already seen widespread totals of 2 to 3 feet, and we're expecting another 1 to 2 feet with the next storm that's on its way in. Here's a look in the Sierra right now. Interstate 80, US 50. You can see Riverton Sandhouse. There's snow all the way down to 3,200 feet right now. And Donner Summit, traffic is backed up. There's a crash up there. So my advice would be to stay out of the high country unless you absolutely have to go up there. I-80 and US 50 both have chain controls right now. 20's also on chain controls, but they're also limiting semi-trucks, no semi-trucks up on 20 right now. 88 and 89 at Emerald Bay are closed. And this is not going to improve very much, to be honest, over the next 24 to 36 hours, because, again, another system is on the way, bringing even more snow to the high country. We're actually seeing some clearing right now in the valley. We've had pop-up showers, a few thunderstorms out there, not very many this afternoon, but as you can see, snow has really not let up at all in the Sierra, and that is why we're still having those traffic issues. But the clearing skies out to our west is good news, because there is a total lunar eclipse tonight, maximum eclipse at 11:58 p.m. But unfortunately, I'm expecting more clouds to return, so we may not get a good look at this total lunar eclipse. We'll just have to go out there and see if the clouds play nice with us. You can see, though, this is about midnight when that maximum eclipse is happening. It looks mostly cloudy, unfortunately, but sometimes the model overdoes clouds, and the clouds aren't as thick as they look on the model. So again, that's why we'll just kind of have to wait and see. But this also times out with our brief break in the rain and the snow, because by the time we get towards tomorrow morning, we're looking at more rain in the valley, more snow up in the high country. Snow continues all day long tomorrow, even though the rain in the valley does become more scattered into the afternoon. But as you saw in the Sierra, snow all day long. So that weather impact alert is now through Friday. 1 to 2 feet of additional Sierra snow. Again, avoid that non-essential travel in the high country. So waking up early on Friday morning, light showers. Temperature's going to be in those low 40s in the valley, but we're talking teens and 20s in the high country with snow. Friday afternoon, scattered showers and cold as well. We're going to be running about 15 degrees below average for the time of year. Highs just in the low 50s again with scattered showers in the afternoon. Next system comes in late Sunday. We'll be looking at another chance of rain and then some off and on rain chances next week, Alex.
All right, Brendan, thank you. And as you mentioned, the total lunar eclipse may not be visible from Sacramento overnight, but there will be ways to watch it online. All right, after the break, the tariff war that's intensifying, the new twists and turns that are affecting 401ks again, and also we'll be highlighting our champions of hope, how one local Toys for Tots volunteer is paying it forward. In your price points tonight, the stock market hit another low today. The S&P 500 ended more than 10% below its record. Dow Jones dropped 537 points, and the Nasdaq fell 2%. And it comes as President Donald Trump is threatening to escalate tariffs, sparking concerns of a global trade war. Perry Russum has more from Washington tonight.
President Trump now threatening a 200% tariff on wine and champagne coming into the U.S. from the European Union. It's the latest move in this back and forth, ever evolving global trade war.
We sell no cars to Europe. I mean, virtually no cars. And they sell millions of cars to us. They don't take our agriculture, we take their agriculture. It's like a one-way street with them.
Trump threatening the tariff in response to the EU threatening a 50% tariff on American-made whiskey. And that came after the U.S. imposed that 25% global tariff on steel and aluminum.
No, I'm not going to bend at all. Aluminum or steel or cars. We're not going to bend.
A day after saying he would respond to the EU with reciprocal tariffs.
So whatever they charge us, we're charging them.
Trump instead threatening a wine tariff that's 400% more than what the EU is proposing. Stocks once again tumbling, affecting Americans' 401ks. Treasury Secretary and billionaire Scott Bessent on CNBC.
I'm not concerned about a little bit of volatility over 3 weeks, because if you look over the long term, the reason stocks are a safe and great investment is because you're looking over the long term.
Trump also in a heated trade war with Canada. Secretary of State Marco Rubio meeting with Canada's foreign affairs minister at a G7 summit today.
And to be honest with you, Canada only works as a state. It doesn't. We don't need anything they have.
Canada's retaliatory tariffs took effect overnight, affecting U.S. exports of steel and aluminum.
But they need us. We really don't need them. And we have to do this. I'm sorry. We have to do this, yes.
New polling today from Quinnipiac University looks at Trump's handling of the economy and trade. The polling was done last week, and 54% of Americans disapprove of his handling of the economy, and 58% disapprove of his handling of trade with Canada. Perry Russum, ABC News, Washington.
President Trump was also asked about how these tariffs are going to affect small businesses. He says, quote, they are going to be so much richer than they are now. And coming up tomorrow, on To the Point, we're hearing from some of Sacramento's small businesses. Many say they are struggling from repeated vandalism and rising costs, and also the popularity of online shopping taking away from brick and mortar sales.
I'm saying something. We need your support. You're going to see massive closures in Sacramento. It's going to lead to boarded up buildings, and you're going to have boarded Main Street. And that's what kind of town do you want?
What they are asking for from the community in this time of uncertainty. That's coming up tomorrow at 6:30 right here on To the Point. A legal fight against Girl Scout cookies appears to be crumbling after the lead plaintiff pulled out of the lawsuit. You might have heard about this one. A woman in New York filed a $5 million class action lawsuit against the Scouts and their bakeries, claiming they are misleading the public by selling cookies contaminated with dangerous heavy metals. The lawsuit was filed after podcaster Joe Rogan discussed a study accusing all Girl Scout cookies of being contaminated and containing pesticides. Medical experts quickly poked holes in the study. Rogan quoted, only 25 cookies in total were tested. The study was not published or peer reviewed, and it judged cookies based on water safety guidelines, not food guidelines. The woman who originally brought the case now is filing for a voluntary dismissal. The Scouts insist their cookies meet all food safety standards and that some heavy metals occur naturally. On the other side of the break, we have our champions of hope, how one local father is paying it forward with Toys for Tots. We know that in news, stories are filled with challenges and hardships, but incredible things are happening every day, from neighbors helping neighbors to inspiring acts of kindness. Each week, we are sharing stories on people that are really making a difference, reminding us of the power of community. So in this week's Champions of Hope, I want to introduce you to Jorge Aguilar from Placerville. He volunteers for Toys for Tots as a way of giving back.
Getting a toy from Santa.
We got to tell him what we wanted for Christmas, and he handed us a toy.
Is a moment Jorge Aguilar will never forget.
We grew up poor, and my parents were farm workers. They didn't really have a lot to give us many gifts.
Toys for Tots.
I was a recipient when I was a kid.
Helped Jorge's family pass on a little cheer.
Having somebody other than my parents give me a toy, knowing somebody else cared that much, help me.
Now as a father, he volunteers for Toys for Tots all year round.
I took that ball and ran with it. I got my family involved, my kids. It's become a family affair. It's become a passion of mine.
Passing on toys to kids who were once like him.
You put the toy in the box, and you never know who it's going to be for. A child that doesn't have, or whose parents, like in my case, were on fixed income.
The need to help families and kids growing.
It's not just about Christmas anymore.
From children in foster care to hurricane and wildfire victims.
Even nationwide, it's a year-round cause.
Jorge hoping to pass on a little kindness.
40 years later, it's still stuck with me.
Creating a memory of a lifetime for another kid.
I never forgot that one toy that was handed to me.
And as Jorge mentioned, the need for Toys for Tots is year-round. So if you would like to help or donate, we have shared information on our website at abc10.com/tothepoint. And of course, if you know someone doing something incredible in your community, don't hesitate to reach out to me and the team. Or if you yourself are doing something great and you want to reach out to us, you always can at tothepoint@abc10.com. As always, thank you so much for watching and inviting us into your home. If you have something we should be looking into, please reach out to us. And don't forget, you can always download our content for free on the ABC 10 Plus TV streaming app.